Hey guys, tonight we slip off our shoes, step onto the warm dust of a Mesopotamian village, and join in the soft excitement of a harvest day beneath a rising moon. The river hums nearby, lazily slipping through reeds and canal gates. Palm fronds sway like sleepy eyelids. A lone herder whistles to his goats. And you? You're already knee-deep in barley stalks, the gold of sunrise catching on your tunic's hem as you brush past heavy heads of grain. You're up before the sun again. Of course you are. No such thing as a late sleeper when the harvest calls. The air is warm, but still holds a trace of night's chill, and your toes squish softly into the dew-rich earth. Around you, the barley is ready. Not just ready, as in technically ripe, but swollen, glistening, whispering to be cut. The festival is tonight, and every sheaf you gather now brings that moment closer. You toss a glance up. Pale pink clouds drift like forgotten dreams across a pale sky. Somewhere across the field, a rooster gives an overly confident announcement, and someone throws a sandal at it. You chuckle and return to your task. 2 hands, 1 small curved blade, and the rhythm of snip, gather, tie, over and over, with the sweet smell of ripeness coating the morning. A few rows over, old Nabu is grumbling as usual. He insists this is the driest moon festival he's ever worked toward. Says his grandfather's beer never turned bitter like this. Which is wild, since historians today still argue whether Mesopotamian beer was more like porridge or actual drink. Based on Nabu's brew, you'd guess porridge that lost a bet. Don't cut too low, someone calls. It's your cousin, arms full of sheaves, pointing at your bundle. You'll anger the field spirits. You smirk. Another village superstition. Still, you adjust your angle. Why risk it? Around you, life stirs. Small children run barefoot between rows, pretending to chase jackals. A group of women near the edge sing a grinding song, steady and repetitive, as they pull their harvest into large woven baskets. The drums haven't started yet, but you can already feel their phantom thump-thump in your chest. Anticipation hums beneath the soil. Historical fact: these kinds of collective harvests weren't just social events. They were economic lifelines. Villages like this survived on the cooperation between families, managing irrigation from nearby canals, and timing the planting with the rise and fall of the Tigris. The entire year depended on these golden stalks. One bad harvest and, poof, there goes the barley, and with it, beer, bread, wages, and good moods. And you know what barley gods like? Gratitude, even if they're a bit indifferent most days. You pause to wipe your brow and stretch your back. A fig tree leans lazily near the edge of the canal, its leaves twitching in the breeze. Beyond it, the mud brick village sits like an old cat in the sun, low, warm, and blinking. The ziggurat, far in the distance, looms like a dreaming giant. Someone's hung an old wind chime near the canal gate, and it tinks lazily, almost in time with your heartbeat. You're not alone in this moment. The others might be scattered across the fields or hunched in their courtyards, preparing meals, but all of you are thinking the same thing. Tonight, we feast. Tonight, we sing and dance and ask the gods not to be jerks for another year. It's not in any law code, but it's etched deep into the cuneiform of your bones. You tie one last bundle and sling it over your shoulder. The rope cuts into your collarbone, but you ignore it. The sun's higher now, edging orange. The day is getting louder. Clay pots clinking, children whining, elders yelling instructions no one follows. You start your walk back to the village centre, dust rising with each step. Quirky tidbit time. Did you know that during festivals, some villages believed that if you whispered your deepest wish into a barley sheaf and threw it into the canal, the river gods might whisper back. Probably not with actual advice. Probably with something more like, "Thanks. Now go finish sweeping the temple floor." You pass a young girl braiding flowers into a goat's fur. The goat looks unimpressed. The girl grins. Everyone's preparing in their own way. The path home takes you over a narrow bridge, a few palm trunks laid side by side. Below, water gurgles past, shallow and stubborn, carrying broken reeds and the occasional fig skin. The irrigation priest swears he saw a fish shaped like the moon last night. He might have also been sipping fermented fig juice. You step off the bridge and re-enter the village's heartbeat, smoke rising from cook fires, goats bleating their personal complaints, clay pots clacking like sleepy percussion. Someone's trying to tune a lyre, and failing. There's a loud pop and a yelp. Probably broke a string, or a toe. And just as you're about to reach your family's courtyard, a flock of birds takes off all at once, startled by something unseen. You freeze, watching them swirl above the rooftops, dark against the now blue sky. Maybe they know something. Maybe tonight really is special. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your location and local time down in the comments. I love seeing where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shift the barley bundle on your back and smile to yourself. There's still much to do, but first, maybe a sip of water or beer, preferably beer. Not Naboo's though. You'd rather risk a curse from the field spirits. The jug is cool in your hands, pressed clay with a chipped lip and a faint scent of yesterday's beer. You tilt it back, savouring the slightly sour taste. It's not fine temple brew, but it's cold and wet and doesn't fight your tongue like Naboo's infamous concoctions. From your courtyard, the village feels like it's waking into celebration, stretching its limbs, tossing its hair, and starting to hum. You duck under a low reed awning. Your sister is grinding chickpeas by the hearth, her sleeves rolled high and her brow slick with effort. "If you're going to just stand there," she mutters, "at least fetch some figs." You salute with the jug and head toward the storage jars, where dried fruits wait in terracotta mouths like treasures in an open tomb. The air smells of roasting onions and smouldering wood. A faint trail of incense curls from a neighbour's window. Someone's already begun their offering. You remember, tonight's feast doesn't just honour the moon. It's for Nisaba, goddess of grain, and for Ashnan, the spirit of barley. And, of course, there's Inanna. Always Inanna. She gets offerings even if she doesn't ask, especially during festivals when the veil between divine and mortal seems gauzy and thin. You select the plumpest figs from the jar, soft and sticky, and wrap them in a palm frond. The courtyard's clay floor is still warm from the sun, and you hear someone begin tuning a harp. This one's better than the earlier musician, less toe-breaking, more lullaby. Out on the main street, people are dragging benches into place, setting flatbread on trays, and hanging ribbons between date palms. The colours, deep red, blue, saffron, flap gently in the warm breeze, like soft echoes of temple banners. Children dart through the legs of elders like quick little spirits. You nearly trip over one, who shrieks and vanishes into a basket pile. Historical fact. In many Mesopotamian towns, harvest festivals were the social event of the year. These weren't just casual gatherings. They involved music, dance, ritual meals, and even mock performances reenacting myths. Sometimes, villagers would dress as deities and goddesses, parading in their honor. For a culture so rooted in agriculture and divine favor, This was their New Year's, Thanksgiving, and family reunion all rolled into one. You settle onto a low stool near your neighbor's doorway. Old Melly, toothless and permanently annoyed, waves you off. "You'll block the wind," she says, despite there being none. You shift one seat over. Peace is restored. Nearby, a young priest in training kneels beside a clay incense burner, arranging crushed myrrh and date oil. He's muttering something under his breath. Maybe a prayer, maybe a complaint. A small gold amulet swings from his neck, catching a ray of light. That's new, probably borrowed from the temple for tonight's ritual. You think about joining him, asking what he's whispering, but something about his focus keeps you back. This isn't just pageantry. He's not playing at being a priest. He's becoming one. And tonight, under the farmer's moon, everything he says might just reach the gods. Fringe fact: some tablets suggest that people once believed moonlight itself could carry messages if spoken aloud, while barefoot on fresh soil. Not letters, not words exactly, but intentions, shaped in the dark. It was called speaking to the sky. You glance down. No sandals. Just your toes, dusty and grounded. Maybe you'll try it later, when no one's looking. A cart creaks by, its wooden wheels wrapped in damp reeds to soften the sound. On it, amphorae of beer, baskets of barley bread, and a wrapped figure you recognize as the local storyteller. Half drunk already, judging by the lopsided grin. You grin back. The temple bells chime. Not loudly, just 3 soft rings, carried on a breeze. A hush falls. Not silence exactly, but a shift. The background clamour becomes softer, like everyone suddenly remembered they're being watched, not by guards, by the divine. You make your way to the canal's edge. It's quieter here. A few ducks drift past, looking as if they own the place. And, well, maybe they do. The canal feeds the fields, which feed the village, which feeds the ducks. Full circle. You crouch, dipping your fingers into the water. It's cool. A little sweet. You flick a few drops over your shoulders, an old gesture from your grandfather. For luck, or to keep river spirits from nibbling your dreams. Above, the sky has deepened. Not yet sunset, but that bruised lavender moment before the stars start whispering. You think of the fig-wrapped bundle in your pocket, your own little offering, meant for later. Probably during the fire dance when no one's watching. Or everyone's watching, but pretending not to. A neighbour calls your name. They need help moving the reed mats. You rise, brushing dirt from your knees, and turn back toward the sound of drums just beginning to echo. Slow, steady, building like footsteps of something older than memory. You're ready. The village is ready. The moon will rise soon. The reed mats are heavier than expected, especially once the dust starts clinging to your arms like an eager toddler. You grip one end while your neighbour, a sun-wrinkled potter named Lugal, grunts his way through the other. He's more muscle than conversation, which suits you fine. The mat creaks, woven tightly from river reeds that still smell faintly of algae and silt. You lay it out beneath a date palm where a cluster of children have gathered, sticky-fingered and already loud from early sips of fermented fig. One of them, the baker's youngest, is whacking a clay drum with a ladle, declaring herself the Moon Queen. You nod solemnly in her direction. Long may she reign. Lugal doesn't laugh, but his eyebrows twitch in a way that suggests amusement, or maybe indigestion. As you step back, you notice the bonfire pit is nearly ready. Tall branches of dried tamarisk and palm fronds have been stacked in a careful cone, drizzled with pitch, and encircled with clay pots painted with spiral designs. Protective symbols, you think, or maybe decorative. Either way, The effect is lovely. One pot has a tiny painted bird perched beside a moon. You like that. You wander toward the communal oven, drawn by the smell of flatbread, bubbling with herbs and sesame. A line of women work in rhythm. Roll, slap, bake, stack. You nod to your aunt, who's elbow-deep in dough and somehow still managing to gossip. She said the priest kissed the brewer's daughter, she murmurs to the flour. During purification. Purification? Can you imagine? You can't, but you pretend to be scandalized. With the incense still burning? She snorts. Exactly. Historical fact, bread was the cornerstone of the Mesopotamian diet, and during festivals it was shaped into symbolic forms. Discs for the sun, crescents for the moon, even stylized barley sheaves. Shared bread was sacred, especially when paired with beer and salt. You watch as a crescent-shaped loaf is pulled from the oven and placed reverently on a woven tray. Down by the field's edge, lanterns are being hung, clay bowls filled with oil, floating wicks nestled in their centers, each suspended from tree limbs like slow flickering stars. As the sun dips below the ziggurat silhouette, the lanterns begin to glow, golden against the rising purple of twilight. Fringe fact. One obscure tablet suggests that during full moons, villagers believed their shadows became loose, capable of walking away if not anchored by firelight or ritual. It was common practice to sit close to lanterns and chant your own name softly, reminding your shadow to stay near. You don't know if it's true, but you'll be sitting close to the fire tonight, just in case. Someone begins the evening hymn, slow and low, almost a hum. It's a song you've known since childhood, something about a river god and a cracked pot. But you've never really understood the lyrics. That doesn't matter. It's the cadence that matters, the call and response, the collective breath. Children pass around clay cups filled with honey-sweetened beer, occasionally taking sneaky sips before the adults notice. You accept one and raise it in mock solemnity toward the moon, which is now lifting itself above the horizon like a heavy silver coin. You whisper, "Stay full, old friend." Just one more night. Someone claps a rhythm. Another joins. Feet begin to shuffle. A slow circle forms around the fire pit, not yet lit, but glowing from anticipation. The music builds, a blend of drums, harp, and that strange double-reed pipe you always forget the name of. It wails like a desert wind caught between two dunes. You drift into the circle, moving with the others. It's not dancing. Not really. More like weaving. Everyone is a thread, looping in and out, stepping, spinning, pausing. You catch glimpses of familiar faces. Your sister with her wild curls unbound, the priest in training with ash on his brow, Melly clutching a palm fan like a weapon. And then, the fire. With a whoosh, the bonfire is lit, flames licking upward in a hungry spiral. The crowd gasps softly, but no one stops moving. The dance deepens. Some begin to sing again, louder now, voices rising like smoke. Historical debate. Scholars still argue whether Mesopotamian moon festivals were purely agricultural or held secret lunar worship rites. Some tablets describe the moon god, Nana, descending to bless the barley, while others suggest cryptic ceremonies in groves hidden from public view. Either way, the moon matters tonight. A woman steps into the firelight, her arms raised. She wears a robe embroidered with symbols, stars, grain stalks, river waves. You recognize her, Etu, the midwife. She begins a chant, one you've only heard once before, at your cousin's birth. It's a blessing, you realize, for the village, for the land, for continued peace and abundance. The words are soft but powerful, curling into the spaces between heartbeats. You close your eyes. You feel the warmth of the fire on your cheeks, the press of earth beneath your soles, the presence of your people moving like a tide around you. When you open your eyes, the moon is directly overhead. You think maybe it's listening. Later in the evening, once the flames have settled into their steady golden roar, the elders bring out the story stools. You find your usual spot, half sunken, suspiciously slanted, and somehow always covered in a thin film of ash, and settle in. It's time for tales. A hush spreads like cool oil across the circle. Even the children, now sticky with fruit and drowsy from excitement, lean in. From the opposite side of the fire, old Dumuzi clears his throat, a sound that's half cough, half thunder. They say, he begins, that in the time before Barley bent its head to man, the fields belonged to the wild goats and the sky. Everyone knows the story, of course. The tale of how Enkimdu, god of farming, won the love of Inanna with promises of orderly rows and sweet beer, beating out the wild shepherd Dumuzi, no relation to the elder, though he'll never admit it. But tonight, the telling is slower. You notice details you've never caught before, the way the god scatters fig seeds like stars across the field, or how Inanna tilts her head when she laughs, so that the crescent of her earring mirrors the sliver moon above. Historical fact: Enkimdu and Dumuzi were once rival suitors in a mythic debate over civilization versus nature. Inanna chose Dumuzi in the end, despite Enkimdu's offers of abundant grain and irrigation, a reminder that divine hearts, like human ones, often prefer passion to predictability. The story ends, not with a kiss or a battle, but with a shared drink between the rivals, sitting beneath a fig tree, watching a young woman laugh with her head tilted toward the stars. You find that detail strangely beautiful. Someone passes you a new cup, this one with a fig floating in it, like a tiny moon. You sip it slowly, savouring the sweetness that coats your teeth. Then comes the part of the night where gifts are offered. Not grand things. This isn't a palace after all, but tokens. A bundle of dried thyme for the brewer, a painted shell for the weaver's daughter, a carved fishbone comb for your cousin, who can never keep her curls from tangling like river vines. Fringe fact: some villages near the marshlands practiced night gifting, where offerings were left under date palms or inside empty pots. It was believed the spirits of the field, small, mischievous beings called kusariku, would bless those who shared freely. Of course, they were also blamed when tools vanished, or goats refused to milk. You've brought something too, a handful of barley beads strung on old thread, the clay hardened into little crescents and stars. You made them with your sister weeks ago, not sure who they were for. Now you press them into the hands of the potter's apprentice. Quiet, lanky, always smelling faintly of wet clay. His eyes go wide. For me? You shrug. For whoever moulds the moon best. He laughs, the sound catching like flint on steel. It's good. The next ritual is one of your favourites, the walking of the lanterns. Families and friends form small groups, each lighting a small oil lantern and walking it down to the irrigation canal. The idea, whispered from generation to generation, is that the moonlight will reflect in the water and carry your hopes downstream to the gods. You join your group, your aunt, your sister, a friend who once kissed you during a thunderstorm, and make your way along the path. The earth is still warm beneath your feet, but the night air cools your skin in pleasant waves. Fireflies blink in and out, like scattered cuneiform. Historical debate. Scholars still argue whether lantern processions were religious, symbolic, or simply practical for nighttime safety. Some tablets hint at links to lunar worship, while others suggest it was merely a way to keep scorpions from sneaking into sandals. You don't care much what historians think. There's something deeply peaceful about walking in a line of flickering lights, the hiss of oil flames and soft murmur of laughter filling the dark. It feels right. When you reach the canal, you squat beside the bank and lower your lantern carefully. Its flame shivers in the water's reflection, then steadies. "I hope next year's barley is sweeter," your sister says. "I hope the moon forgets my name," you say, and she elbows you. Someone starts humming a lullaby, an old one about a heron and a fisherman who forgot how to sleep. You think it ends badly for the fisherman, but the tune is gentle enough. Back at the village circle, the fire has burned lower, collapsing into orange cracked coals. People are stretched out on mats, full and content. A baby snores somewhere to your right. To your left, someone is absently braiding reeds into a crown. You lie back, resting your head on your folded arm. The moon hovers near the zenith now, a bright watcher above your quiet little world. You remember an elder once saying that the gods don't listen to prayers. They smell them. In the curling smoke of burnt fig wood, in the sweat of dancers, in the sweet tang of shared beer. If that's true, you think, then the gods must be drunk with joy tonight. A soft breeze stirs the coals, sending up a final spark. The fire replies with a crackle like laughter. You close your eyes. You're not sure when the music starts again, but it wraps around you like a dream you forgot you were having. Soft reed flutes this time, layered with the lazy rhythm of clay hand drums. It's the sound of people who aren't in a rush to go anywhere. You sit up slowly. The fire's collapsed into a pile of glowing embers, casting long shadows that flicker like dancers of their own. Most of the village is either drifting towards sleep or curled up in little clusters, murmuring low stories only their ears need to hear. But near the edge of the square, just past the grinding stone, the youths are preparing for the moon step. No one knows exactly how the dance started. Some say it mimics the path of the moon as it slips between the constellations. Others claim it was invented by a farmer's bored sons, trying to impress the priestess's daughter. Either way, it's traditional now. You stand, stretch, and wander over to watch, maybe even join. Historical fact: Mesopotamian festivals often included sacred dances, especially under the lunar calendar. Some were associated with fertility, others with weather rites. Records carved on tablets from mention processions involving masked dancers, who may have represented gods or celestial bodies. Tonight's version is less formal. No masks, just bare feet and patterned sashes and the occasional string of bells tied at the ankle. The group forms a loose circle, and then, like a pulse, the first foot moves. Right, right, step, pause, left, sweep, turn, pause. You join in, easing into the rhythm. Your feet stir dust. Your heartbeat sinks to the drum. Around you, the circle breathes and moves like a single animal. Clumsy, joyful, occasionally out of sync, but beautifully alive. There's laughter when someone stumbles. A low cheer when someone spins too wide and nearly knocks over a lamp. A dog weaves between legs, tail wagging like a metronome. And above it all, the moon watches, huge and indifferent. There's a moment during the dance, a brief one, but it hangs in your memory, when everyone's arms raise together, forming a ring of silhouettes against the moon. It feels ancient, like you're all cogs in a sky-sized wheel that has turned for thousands of years. Fringe fact: some scholars speculate that certain Mesopotamian dance patterns were mapped to celestial calendars. A few cracked tablets seem to contain choreographic notations beside lunar diagrams, though interpretations vary wildly. Others just think it was a way to stay warm at night. Eventually, The music winds down, a final soft slap of the drum, a lingering note from the flute, like a breath let go. Someone claps, slow and quiet, the kind of applause you give not because something was perfect, but because it happened at all. You sit again, back in the grass, now cool with dew. The smell of the fire is in your hair. Your feet are dusty and sore. You feel full of something. Warmth? Moonlight? Memory? You don't name it. Across the field, someone is humming a harvest song. Not the kind you dance to. The kind you sing when you want the gods to know you noticed the colour of the wheat this year. Someone hands you a fig. It's ripe, purple-black, and soft. You bite into it. The skin bursts like a secret. It's absurdly sweet. You remember last year's figs? Someone says nearby. You do. They were smaller, drier. This year's are better. Historical debate. It's unclear exactly how figs were cultivated alongside barley in early Mesopotamian settlements. Some theories suggest figs were wild-gathered and only semi-domesticated in the south, while others argue they were deliberately planted in floodplain gardens much earlier than previously thought. Either way, they've been part of feasts like this for over 5,000 years. A child crawls into your lap. You don't know whose she is. It doesn't matter. She's warm and curls like a kitten. You hum a lullaby for her, the same one your mother hummed for you. Something about a fish with golden fins who brings dreams if you leave your shoes by the river. You don't remember the words exactly, but the melody is enough. As you sing, your mind wanders back to the first moon you remember. You were small. The celebration had felt impossibly big. You thought the gods were watching every movement you made. Now you're older. You know the gods are busy, but still, you hope one of them is paying attention. You gaze at the moon again, closer now, or so it feels, and wonder how many other eyes are locked onto it tonight. In other villages, other fields, on the rooftops of Ur, on boats drifting down the Euphrates, in quiet temples where priestesses whisper names that no one else is allowed to say. It feels like a thread. You, tied to them. All of you, tied to the moon. You lean back on your elbows and sigh. The child in your lap snores once, softly. You adjust her so she's more comfortable. In the distance, you hear the croak of frogs starting up in the canal. It's the third time they've sung tonight, which means dawn is a few hours away. You'll sleep soon. But for now, you just sit, watching the embers breathe, letting the fig's sweetness linger on your tongue, listening to the slow, steady hum of a world that, for tonight at least, is whole. The sky begins its slow fade, from indigo to charcoal, that ghostly pre-dawn stretch when stars dim one by one, reluctant to leave. You're still awake somehow. Maybe it's the festival magic, or the stubborn joy of holding on to one perfect night just a little longer. Around you, others have surrendered to sleep. Cloaks pulled over faces, baskets used as pillows. A pair of elders snore side by side like twin oxen, their empty beer cups tipped over in the grass. You shift gently, careful not to wake the child still curled against your side. Her tiny hand rests on your knee, warm and trusting. Across the village square, a low bell rings once. That's the signal. You know it, without thinking, just as your parents knew, and their parents before them. Time for the offering walk. You ease out from under the girl, laying her down with a reed mat under her head. She doesn't stir. You smile. Kids sleep like bricks in clay. You rise and join the trickle of other villagers already heading toward the eastern path. Barefoot, quiet, some still wrapped in blankets. Everyone carries something. You cradle a small woven tray with barley kernels, 3 dates, and a palm leaf folded into a spiral. It's not much. It's not meant to be. The offering walk isn't about grandeur. It's about gratitude. Historical fact. Archaeological sites across southern Mesopotamia have revealed traces of ritual paths leading from towns to nearby groves, springs, or stone altars. These paths were used during festivals to leave simple offerings for spirits and deities associated with the land or weather. Clay tokens, bits of food, and braided reeds were common finds along these trails. The path crunches softly under your feet. You pass the sleeping oxen, their flanks rising and falling like slow bellows. The fields shimmer in silver under the fading moon. You can see the heads of wheat, still uncut in the outer corners, where tomorrow's harvest will finish. Someone starts to hum again. This time, it's the river song, the one you've known since you could walk. About a boat with golden sails drifting past the mouth of the underworld. About a goddess who cries each time the barley dies, only to laugh when it returns. You hum along, your voice low, just breath, really. You reach the old tamarisk tree just before the bend in the canal. That's where the offerings go, not on an altar, on the earth, right where roots can find them. You kneel and place yours gently down. One date rolls a little and comes to rest in a groove made by years of identical offerings. Fringe fact. Some early Mesopotamian texts hint that the tamarisk tree was believed to house protective spirits, especially in villages far from temple complexes. One fable tells of a tamarisk that whispered advice to a priest who had lost his voice. You press your fingertips into the soil for a moment, just long enough to say something quietly. You're not even sure if it's a prayer, or a thank you, or just a thought wrapped in silence. As you stand, you see others doing the same. An old woman leaves a carved shell. A young couple lays down a shared ring of braided grass. A boy places a single fig, half-eaten. Everyone leaves something. Not for reward, not for good luck, just because. The walk back is even quieter. The moon is lower now, heavy with the night's secrets. The frogs have gone still. Even the crickets hush as the horizon starts to breathe pink and lavender. You pass the square again, still half asleep, with people scattered like laundry on a line. Someone has stoked the fire. Its coals glow hot again. A single pot balanced atop for the early risers. You could sleep now, easily, but part of you doesn't want to. Instead, you climb the small rise behind the granary, a spot kids use during games, and teens claim when they think no one's watching. You sit at the top. The air is cool and smells like yesterday's smoke and tomorrow's rain. From here, you can see the whole village. Mud brick homes with dark windows, storage jars lined neatly under awnings, the sacred tree still and wide like a giant watching over the canal, and beyond, the ziggurat, far off but clear. It catches the first gold of morning before anything else. Historical debate. Historians still argue whether ziggurats were used for astronomical purposes, religious rituals, or as royal propaganda. Some believe their layered structure mirrored the heavens, while others think they simply kept temple rooms high above floods and street noise. Whatever their purpose, it's hard to deny that they look like steps for gods. You pull your blanket tighter around your shoulders and yawn. The first rooster calls. A distant splash signals someone starting laundry in the river. The festival is ending, but its glow will linger, like embers in the soul. Down below, the baker's apprentice stirs the coals beneath the oven. You smell the unmistakable scent of fresh dough warming. Flatbread, soon. You'll eat, then maybe nap through the hottest part of the day. Unless, of course, the fig pickers need help. You smile. You're not doing figs today. That was someone else's job. You danced. You offered. You kept the rhythm of the village alive just by showing up. That's enough. You close your eyes, head resting on your arms. The sun crests the edge of the palm grove. The barley turns gold. And you, sitting alone on a clay rise, feel exactly where you're supposed to be. The day warms slowly, as if hesitant to intrude on the hush that still blankets the village. You stir from your perch atop the rise, joints stiff but soul-light. A few villagers stretch near the granary, sleep still clinging to their eyes. Children chase the last embers of their dreams, while goats nibble at tufts of grass that dared to survive the foot traffic of the night's celebration. You descend the slope, blanket still wrapped around your shoulders like a cape. The baker waves from his post, flour dusting his eyebrows. He hands you a warm flatbread without a word. Soft, slightly smoky, still steaming. You tear a piece and bite in, the crust crisp but yielding, the inside airy with a hint of fermented barley. Nearby, a woman hauls a water jug from the canal. Her arms ripple with practiced ease. You nod in silent respect. She's one of the elders who still insists on carrying water the old way, balanced high on the head, no hands. She passes you, her bronze earrings glinting in the sun. In the square, the first semblance of order returns. Broken clay cups are stacked. Lanterns are snuffed and stored. A few pigs root around for leftover dates, squealing with the delight of unexpected treasure. Someone is already muttering about sweeping up the reed confetti. You hear your name called, not shouted, just carried gently by the wind. It's the potter's daughter. She's waving a small jar. You approach, and she offers it to you. A fresh batch of scented oil she made yesterday, infused with myrrh and pressed fig leaf. "Thanks for not dropping the drum," she teases. You grin, because you almost did. Twice. Fringe fact: in some Mesopotamian towns, teenagers would take turns making ritual oils during festival weeks, not as official temple work, but as social training in craft and cooperation. The oils were sometimes used symbolically on goats rather than people, believed to bless the herd for fertility. You dab a little of the oil on your wrists. The scent is warm, a little spicy, a little sweet. It lingers like laughter. The potter's daughter disappears into the cluster of houses, calling for her brothers. You consider following, but your attention is snagged by the sound of splashing water. You wander toward the edge of the village, where a small group is gathering near a sunken cistern. Children take turns jumping into the cool water, shrieking as they break the surface. Their parents shout reminders not to get the linen wet, which naturally guarantees that it will get soaked. You dip your toes in. The shock of cold climbs to your teeth. You gasp, then laugh. That's when the bell sounds again. One low, resonant note. Not the same as last night's. This one is deeper, heavier. It's time for the barley weighing. The festival has its closing acts. You towel off quickly. Well, you rub your feet on the grass and follow the others to the communal granary. There, in the shade of the wide palms, sits the chief scribe. His tablet is already waiting, fresh clay smoothed and ready for impressions. The crowd gathers in a slow circle. You know this part well. It's ceremonial, but it matters. Each family approaches, presenting a portion of their stored barley. The scribe nods, measures, and marks. Not all of the grain goes to temple storage. A portion stays with you. Another is shared with the village collective. And yes, some goes toward taxes, though no one dares say the word taxes at a celebration. Historical fact: in many Mesopotamian cities, agricultural taxes were recorded using cuneiform tablets and a system of weights. These records help maintain fair distribution for emergencies religious functions, and trade. You wait your turn. When it comes, you step forward with a modest sack. The scribe doesn't smile, but his eyes crinkle. He recognizes your name. He remembers your grandfather, who once brought 3 sacks in a single year and celebrated by giving away honey cakes to half the town. He nods. The weight is fair. He presses into the clay, symbols you don't fully know, but respect deeply. A small boy peers over the scribe's shoulder, fascinated. You remember being that boy once, wondering if those marks meant magic. Fringe fact: some fringe scholars believe children were taught to read cuneiform, first as rhythm, clap the marks, then understand them, similar to how music is learned before theory. The ritual continues. Some families bow, some kiss the ground, some simply walk away in silence. All are accepted. When the last sack is recorded, the chief scribe stands. He lifts the tablet for all to see, and then he does something rare. He breaks a tiny corner off the clay before it dries. It's symbolic, a gesture of good fortune. He buries that corner in the earth, saying a short blessing for the next season. The rest of the tablet is set to dry in the sun. That moment lingers. It feels like a page turned in the air around you. The celebration has shifted from wild joy to soft reverence. You find your way back to your mat under the tree. You lie down. Your limbs stretch, full and loose from dancing, walking, eating, laughing. Your eyes begin to drift closed, but not quite yet, because someone starts singing again. Just one voice, thin, a little off-key, but brave. It's the song of the goddess who counts figs on her fingers and names each by the tree it grew on. You hum along, too tired to sing, too content to care. Your breath slows. The breeze stirs your blanket. The world doesn't end. It just exhales, and so do you. The afternoon air settles into a golden lull, soft and syrupy as it pools in the fields and streams. You rise once more, stretching like a cat, joints popping, just enough to remind you that last night was indeed a celebration, worthy of sore muscles. The villagers are quieter now, their movements slower, more deliberate, less festival, more aftermath. Someone hands you a fig, ripe, warm from the sun, sticky sweet. You suck it down in 2 bites and wipe your fingers on your tunic without shame. There's no judgment here, not during the waning hours of the Farmer's Moon Festival. The last communal activity before dusk begins with a whistle. Then 2, then a long, rising trill, the call of the threshers. Everyone who can stand begins to make their way toward the outer fields, where long wooden sleds have been dragged out and oxen already bray with impatience. You grab a palm fiber hat on your way. Not yours. Doesn't matter. The threshing is part work, part ritual, part excuse to pretend you're helping, when really you're soaking in the rhythm of the season's end. This year's grain is spread in wide circles, like golden halos on the packed dirt. Children are allowed to take the first turns riding the sleds as the oxen trample the grain beneath. Historical fact: threshing sleds in Mesopotamia were simple wooden planks embedded with sharp stones or metal shards. As oxen pulled them over harvested grain, they broke the husks open. A critical step before winnowing. A group of teenagers sings a working song. The lyrics are nonsense on purpose, just sounds to match the pace of the oxen. But somehow, it sounds sacred. One of the elders leads a prayer, walking the perimeter of the threshing circle barefoot. His chants rise and fall like the cooing of doves. You climb onto the sled next. It's bumpy, dusty, and smells like warm straw and animal sweat. You love it. You're pulled in slow, uneven loops, sun on your face, wind in your ears, laughter in your lungs, and there's something else, a feeling of being bound to all the people who ever did this before you, of being part of a story that was old before the river got its name. Fringe fact: in some towns, the sled riders were instructed to wear specific amulets, tiny clay figures of bulls or ears of grain, believed to protect them from crop demons that might interfere with threshing. You don't have a talisman, but you whisper a line from your grandmother's favourite song as a stand-in. That'll do. As the sun tips lower, the village kids are sent to fetch palm fronds and wide-leafed reeds for the next event, the Wind Games. It's exactly what it sounds like: impromptu contests to see who can build the best wind toy out of sticks, fronds, and leftover festival scraps. You join a group and fashion a sort of flapping kite. It flies about as well as a goat, but the others cheer anyway. Laughter peals across the field. The bonfires haven't been lit yet, but the sky is starting to blush, clouds streaked with copper and lavender. A boy races past with a flute made from a river reed. He's playing the four-note melody every Mesopotamian kid knows by the time they're 3. It's used to call dogs, signal snack time, and once, very memorably, to trick a merchant into thinking a caravan had arrived early. You playfully grab the flute from him and try a tune of your own, badly. He doubles over in giggles and runs to tattle to his mother that you broke the wind god's voice. You're not sure what that means, but it sounds important. You hand the flute back and bow deeply in apology. He grins like he's just negotiated tribute from a foreign king. Night falls quietly, like a blanket settling over the land. The fires are lit again, smaller now, in clusters around the fields. This is not the revelry of last night. This is the afterglow. Families sit in circles, sharing the last of the bread, figs, beer. The potter's daughter plays a drum softly, its rhythm more heartbeat than festival. A man you don't know tells a story about a lion that fell in love with a river spirit. Another sings a lullaby to a baby already asleep in her lap. The stars appear, hesitant at first, then all at once. You lie back, watching them fill the sky like holes poked in a dark clay tablet. One of the elders begins reciting an old myth, the tale of Ashnan, the grain goddess, and Lahar, the shepherd god. Historical fact: Ashnan and Lahar were central to an early Sumerian myth, where the gods create them to feed the divine realm. Their sibling rivalry ends with a feast, symbolizing harmony between farming and herding. The storyteller changes his voice for each deity. His Ashnan sounds a lot like your aunt when she's nagging your uncle. The crowd chuckles in quiet agreement, and just as Ashnan is about to outwit her brother in a barley eating contest, someone lets out an enormous yawn. It ripples through the gathering. Not boredom, just the comfort of full bellies, soft firelight, and stories that have outlived empires. You sit up slowly, brushing off your back. The earth has left its signature on your tunic. Dirt, crumbs, the edge of a leaf you didn't notice. Your legs ache in a satisfying way. The air smells like ash and figs and the last whisper of summer. Tomorrow you'll help clean. You'll help pack up the tools, fold the banners, maybe even chisel a note into the temple wall about this year's harvest. But tonight still belongs to the moon and the grain and the gods who haven't stopped listening. You make your way toward the ziggurat, not to pray, not even to watch, just to sit on its cool steps, a little removed, a little elevated, like a fig left too long on a high branch. You lean back against its ancient stones and sigh, and from there you can hear the soft rustle of palm trees swaying, like the gods are brushing the sky smooth. The night deepens, folding around you like a well-worn cloak. You remain seated on the ziggurat steps, the stone cool and solid beneath your palms, grounding you in this moment between worlds, the mortal and divine, the past and present. The village is a quiet constellation of flickering lights far below, small fires smouldering like ancient wishes. The moon, full and bright, casts an argent glow that softens the harsh lines of the temple's mud bricks, smoothing them into something almost tender. You watch as a gentle breeze threads through the palm fronds, their shadows dancing on the temple walls like silent watchers. A faint clatter draws your attention. From the temple's inner courtyard, you see a group of acolytes moving with purposeful grace. They carry incense burners, small bowls cradled in hands that tremble just slightly, with wisps of fragrant smoke curling upward, twisting like prayers. Historical fact: in Mesopotamian rituals, incense was often made from a mixture of herbs, resins, and spices such as frankincense and myrrh, believed to carry messages to the gods. The ritual is intimate, a slow choreography of offerings and whispers. You recognize the patterns, the burning of oils to honor Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility, whose favor the village hopes to secure for the coming seasons. A young acolyte steps forward, his hands steady despite his youth. He pours a thick oil into the flame, sending a plume of sweet smoke curling heavenward. The scent drifts toward you, mingling with the earthiness of the fields and the faint tang of barley. Fringe fact: some ancient texts hint that priests and priestesses used particular oil, blends not just for scent, but also for mild hallucinogenic effects, meant to open the mind's eye to divine visions, though historians still debate the extent of this practice. You imagine the acolyte's thoughts as he performs each motion, perhaps nervousness, or the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. Perhaps pride. He bows deeply, eyes lowered, and you feel the silent communication between human and God, a fragile thread stretched across time. Nearby, women seated around a low fire chant softly, their voices weaving like silk through the night air. Their prayers are for abundance, for the protection of children, for the peace that lets the land breathe easy. You remember an old story your grandmother told you about the veiling of the priestesses, how their veils weren't just cloth, but symbols of purity and mystery, layers of meaning folded like origami. Historians still argue whether the veils were literal or metaphorical, but either way they remain a potent image of the sacred feminine. The night's quiet hum is punctuated by the occasional scrape of reed sandals on stone, the clink of pottery jars being set aside. You watch as the acolyte approaches the statue of Inanna herself, a carved figure in lapis lazuli and gold leaf, serene and fierce all at once. He places a small bowl of pomegranate seeds at her feet, an offering of fertility and life. The ritual closes with a communal song, voices rising and falling like the Euphrates, old as the stones themselves. You hum along, the melody settling into your bones, a lullaby of earth and stars. You feel the pulse of the festival still beating softly inside you, like a heart slowed but not quite sleeping. You stand, stretch once more, and begin the walk back to your quarters. The moon watches you go, a silent guardian of the harvest's promises. The village is quieter now as you wander through winding mud brick lanes, the bonfires having burned low to embers, their warmth lingering like a gentle memory. Lanterns hang from twisted fig branches, casting pools of soft light that flicker and dance, a quiet audience to your steps. The scent of roasted barley and sweet figs still lingers in the air, wrapping around you like a familiar shawl. You pause beside a well, its stone rim worn smooth by generations of thirsty hands. The water gleams beneath the moon's silver gaze, a mirror to the night sky. You lean in, cupping the cool liquid and sipping slowly, the sweetness refreshing and grounding. Historical fact: ancient Mesopotamian villages often centered around wells or canals, vital for irrigation and daily life, showing an early mastery of water management that sustained entire civilizations. A group of children gather nearby, their laughter soft and secretive as they play a game of shadow puppets against a mud wall. Their shapes, animals, gods, mythical beasts, flicker and blend, stories told without words, a living tapestry of tradition. Fringe tidbit: some scholars believe Mesopotamian children were taught cuneiform through games and storytelling, much like these, blending learning with play in ways that echo even into modern education theories. As you move deeper into the village square, the faint sound of a drumbeat rises, slow, steady, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Elders and families gather around, hands clasped, feet tapping in time. The dance begins, a weaving of bodies and shadows, celebrating the moon's watchful eye and the blessings of the harvest. The rhythms are ancient, unchanging, yet somehow always new when felt beneath your skin. You join in, your feet following the circle, the ground vibrating with energy and joy. The dance tells a story of planting and growth, of hardship and hope, of community bound by earth and sky. You recall a curious fact: barley was not only the staple crop, but also the basis for Mesopotamian beer, a sacred beverage often shared during festivals and rituals. Historians still debate the exact recipe and brewing techniques, but there's no doubt it was central to social and spiritual life. The song shifts to a lullaby, the kind your mother might have sung, soft and sweet, carrying promises of tomorrow's sunrise. You feel the weight of the day lift from your shoulders, replaced by a serene calm. As the circle breaks and the villagers begin to drift home, you take a moment to gaze upward. The full moon shines bright, a silver guardian over the fields you've walked, the lives you've glimpsed, and the timeless dance of earth and sky. The village is now cloaked in quiet, the bonfires smouldering low, leaving behind only the gentle glow of embers. You find yourself near a cluster of date palms, their tall trunks silhouetted against the moonlit sky, leaves rustling softly in the night breeze. The air is thick with the sweet scent of ripe dates, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp soil and crushed barley stalks. You spot an elder seated beneath the palms, her hands deftly weaving palm fronds into intricate patterns, a skill passed down through countless generations. She smiles as you approach, offering you a small woven basket filled with figs, each one glistening with dew. You accept it gratefully, savouring the fruit's subtle sweetness. Historical fact: date palms were an essential resource in Mesopotamia, providing food, materials for baskets, roofing, and even fuel. They were often cultivated near irrigation canals, showcasing the clever integration of agriculture and water management. Nearby, a group of young women softly chant an ancient hymn to the goddess Ninhursag, the mother of the mountains and fertility. Their voices rise and fall like the flowing Tigris, a melodic prayer for abundance and protection. Fringe tidbit: some believe that Mesopotamian hymns were more than prayers. They might have encoded early forms of musical notation, though the exact melodies remain lost to time. You join their circle, feeling the vibration of their voices ripple through the cool night air. The chant seems to weave a connection between the earth beneath your feet and the vast sky above, binding past, present, and future. Historians still debate how much of Mesopotamian spiritual life was public ritual versus private devotion, but gatherings like these hint at a rich tapestry of communal faith. As the chant fades, you notice the moon's reflection shimmering in a nearby canal, where water gently laps against a wooden boat. The silhouette of a fisherman drifts silently, casting nets with practiced ease, his movements a dance as old as the rivers themselves. You pause a moment, letting the serene night settle in, knowing tomorrow's harvest work will begin with the same timeless rhythm that has sustained these lands for millennia. The morning sun peeks over the horizon, casting a warm amber light on the village waking from its moonlit slumber. You stroll through the fields where the harvest celebration has left traces, smoke rising faintly from extinguished bonfires, baskets tipped over with stray figs rolling on the earth, and footprints mingling with the soft furrows of barley. Farmers begin readying their tools, voices low and steady, sharing stories of last season's rains and the promise of this year's yield. Children chase each other near the canal's edge, their laughter mixing with the call of water birds. Nearby, women gather to wash the clay cups used in last night's feasting, their hands gentle but practiced. Historical fact: barley was the staple grain in Mesopotamia and used not only for bread, but also for brewing one of the earliest known beers, a key part of both diet and ritual. You watch as a young scribe, seated on a low bench, inscribes delicate cuneiform characters onto a wet clay tablet. The sharp reed stylus leaves neat, wedge-shaped marks, each symbol a tiny echo of human thought and memory. You wonder what stories he's preserving tonight, perhaps the year's harvest totals, or prayers for future bounty. Quirky tidbit: the cuneiform writing system, while complex, began as simple pictographs. Some tablets even include doodles or early graffiti from scribes who grew bored during long hours of copying texts. A gentle breeze stirs, carrying the scents of fresh earth, sweet figs, and smoky incense from the temple, where preparations for the next festival have quietly begun. Scholars continue to debate whether these early scripts were more bureaucratic records or storytelling tools. Here in the village, it seems both purposes blend seamlessly. You take a deep breath, feeling the pulse of daily life flowing steadily, timeless and steady like the river that nourishes this land. You follow a narrow dirt path leading toward the temple precinct, where the air thickens with fragrant smoke from burning cedar and myrrh. The scent weaves through the morning light, wrapping around you like a soft veil. Along the way, elders gather beneath palm trees, their weathered faces telling stories older than the stones beneath their feet. They speak in low, measured tones about the goddess Inanna and the blessings she bestows on the harvest. As you approach the temple courtyard, musicians begin tuning their lyres and drums, preparing for the evening's celebrations. Their fingers glide across strings with a practiced ease that seems to breathe life into the instruments. Nearby, young women weave garlands from wildflowers and date palms, weaving soft hues of gold and green. Historical fact: the goddess Inanna, central to many Mesopotamian festivals, was revered as the deity of love, fertility and war, a complex figure whose myths shape much of the culture's religious life. You spot a cluster of acolytes performing ritual cleansing with water drawn from the sacred canal. They splash the cool liquid onto their faces and arms, whispering prayers that ripple softly into the warm air. It's a quiet moment of preparation, the calm before the vibrant storm of celebration. Quirky tidbit: some Mesopotamian festivals included ritualized dances mimicking the cycles of nature, with performers sometimes dressed as animals or natural elements, blurring lines between human and divine. Scholars still argue whether certain dances were purely symbolic or had deeper magical significance tied to agricultural success. Either way, you can feel the heartbeat of tradition thrumming beneath every footstep. The temple walls, adorned with relief carvings of mythic beasts and flowing rivers, seem to hum with history. You touch the cool stone, running your fingers over faded cuneiform that tells stories of gods and men, harvests and battles, though tonight, peace holds sway. With a final glance at the gathering light, you step back, ready to join the dance as twilight deepens. The sun dips lower, casting long amber shadows over the fields, where families are already gathering around flickering bonfires. The golden light plays on the woven baskets brimming with ripe figs, plump dates, and freshly harvested barley stalks. Children laugh softly, their faces glowing with excitement, as they chase each other under the wide open sky, the scent of roasted grain and sweet beer mingling in the air. You move closer to the heart of the village, where the moon, full and luminous, begins its slow climb into the deepening blue. Lanterns made from reed and wax hang from low branches, their soft flickering flames casting dancing patterns on the rough clay walls. The sounds of a lyre and drum grow stronger, weaving a hypnotic rhythm that draws villagers into a gentle sway. Historical fact: the Mesopotamian calendar was closely tied to lunar cycles, and many agricultural festivals were timed to coincide with the full moon, symbolizing abundance and renewal. The villagers begin a circle dance around the largest bonfire, their movements deliberate and flowing, like waves on the Tigris. Elders chant blessings to Nana, the moon god, and to Enlil, the god of wind and breath, asking for continued favor and peaceful nights ahead. You feel the ancient energy in the air, a connection between earth and sky made tangible through shared song and ritual. Quirky tidbit: in some harvest celebrations, it was customary to toast the barley gods by spilling a bit of beer on the ground, an offering to ensure the spirits of the grain remained happy and plentiful. Scholars still debate the precise role of beer in religious ceremonies. Was it sacred nourishment or simply a joyous indulgence? Either way, tonight it flows freely, its amber glow catching the firelight. You notice the young acolyte from earlier, now holding a small clay cup, carefully pouring frothy beer at the base of a carved stone idol. Their face is serene, eyes reflecting both reverence and the faint sparkle of youth. Around you, laughter and quiet prayers mingle as the festival unfolds under the steady gaze of the moon. The dance slows, and a hush falls over the crowd as the village storyteller steps forward, cradling a weathered clay tablet. The flickering firelight illuminates the tablet's cuneiform inscriptions, ancient signs telling of gods and heroes long past. You lean in, drawn by the gentle cadence of the storyteller's voice, weaving a tale of Inanna's descent into the underworld, a myth both terrifying and beautiful, told in a soothing rhythm, perfect for this quiet night. You can almost feel the weight of the story in the warm night air, the rise and fall of words like the river's current. The crowd listens in rapt silence, the crackling of the fire punctuating the pauses. Somewhere nearby, a reed flute softly accompanies the tale, its notes floating like a gentle breeze through date palms. Historical fact: Mesopotamian myths were often inscribed on clay tablets and recited aloud during festivals, serving both as entertainment and as sacred reminders of cosmic order. A quirky tidbit whispers through the storyteller's words. The strange ritual of leaving a small cup of beer outside one's door overnight, believed to attract the favor of protective spirits who would watch over the household. Historians still argue whether these tales were meant solely for ritual or also for moral teaching and communal bonding. Tonight, the story seems to blend all three. As the tale reaches its climax, you catch a glimpse of the acolyte again, eyes reflecting the fire's glow, mouthing silent prayers to Inanna. The village feels connected, past and present, earth and sky, story and spirit, woven tightly beneath the farmer's moon. As the storyteller's voice fades, the villagers slowly rise, forming a circle around the bonfire, hands clasped together. You join in, feeling the warmth not just from the flames, but from the shared joy and gratitude permeating the air. The full moon hangs low, bathing the fields in a silver glow, making the barley sway like liquid gold beneath your feet. You notice the subtle scent of roasted figs mingling with the smoke, carried by the evening breeze. The festival feels timeless, like a bridge spanning centuries between you and the ancient farmers who once stood where you now stand. You step closer to a woven basket brimming with freshly picked figs and barley bread, offered generously by smiling faces. Historical fact: the Mesopotamian calendar was closely tied to agricultural cycles, and moon festivals like this marked important moments for planting and harvesting crops. Here's a curious detail. Some villagers believed that if you danced barefoot on the moonlit soil, the earth itself would bless your steps with fertility and abundance for the coming year. Scholars debate whether these festivals served more as practical agricultural markers or as profound spiritual ceremonies, binding communities to the gods and each other. Tonight, as laughter and music fill the air, you feel the pulse of an ancient tradition still very much alive, pulsing beneath the peaceful farmer's moon. The night deepens, and the bonfire crackles, casting flickering shadows that dance alongside the villagers. You find yourself drawn toward the water's edge, where the canal reflects the moonlight like a mirror of silver glass. Farmers in simple linen tunics sit quietly, sharing stories of past harvests and whispered prayers to the gods. You dip your fingers into the cool water, feeling the gentle current slip through your skin. It reminds you how the Tigris and Euphrates rivers have been lifelines for this land, feeding fields of barley and fig trees for thousands of years. Historical fact: irrigation canals like this were vital innovations of Mesopotamian agriculture, enabling the cultivation of fertile lands in an otherwise arid region. Here's something quirky. Some villages held secret midnight rituals by the water, believing that the moon's reflection was a portal to the realm of Nanna, the moon god. Historians still debate whether these lunar rites were primarily spiritual or practical, aiming to predict weather patterns and ensure bountiful crops. You lean back against a smooth stone, watching stars twinkle above, and realize you're part of a timeless dance, one where humans and nature intertwine beneath the watchful gaze of the farmer's moon. You find yourself walking along the softly illuminated temple corridor, where the warm glow of oil lamps flickers against the mud brick walls. The scent of frankincense drifts faintly through the air, mingling with the earthiness of crushed herbs scattered carefully on stone shelves. You notice the delicate, hand-carved alabaster vessels, each filled with fragrant oils meant for the evening's ritual honoring Inanna. As an acolyte, your task tonight is to prepare these precious gifts with the utmost care, knowing they will soon be offered to the goddess to ensure fertility and protection over the village. You pause by a small table, its surface inscribed with cuneiform texts detailing the sacred prayers and invocations. The script's wedge-shaped characters dance in neat rows, their stylized marks a testament to the scribes who preserved the faith and stories of your people. You trace one symbol with your fingertip, a sign that scholars still debate whether it represents a star, a grain, or a divine presence. The temple's air hums with anticipation as your fellow acolytes move silently around you, draped in pale linen and shimmering lapis lazuli beads that catch the lamplight. Outside, the sky deepens into a velvet dusk, streaked with purples and indigos. The temple ziggurat rises sharply against the horizon, its stepped terraces adorned with palm fronds and woven garlands of date palms. A soft breeze carries the faint murmur of villagers gathered below, their laughter and chants weaving through the night like a living tapestry. Their celebrations honour the harvest and the sacred bond between mortals and gods. A bond you feel deeply as you light a small clay lamp, sending its flame dancing upward like a prayer itself. Nearby, an ancient clay tablet rests on a pedestal, worn smooth by time, but still etched with a story of Inanna's descent into the underworld. A myth told in whispers around fires, rich with symbols of life, death, and rebirth. You recall the vivid images carved into the tablet, the goddess's veiled form, the gates she passed through, and the shadows that clung to her path. Historians still argue about whether this myth was meant as a moral lesson, a calendar marking seasonal change, or a spiritual guide for acolytes like yourself. You carefully mix a fragrant oil blend, myrrh, cedar, and a hint of date syrup, into an alabaster bowl. The blend's sweet, resinous aroma fills your senses, grounding you in the sacred moment. The ritual is more than routine. It is a delicate dance of intention and devotion, where each gesture echoes through generations. Your fingers, steady but reverent, dip into the oil and slowly anoint the terracotta altar's carved symbols, the eyes of Inanna seemingly opening beneath your touch. Nearby, a small clay incense burner waits, shaped like a crouching lion, the protector of the temple gates. You add crushed herbs, watching as the smoke begins to curl and rise, twirling in the stillness like a serpent weaving between realms. The smoke's patterns form fleeting shapes, sometimes a crescent moon, other times the wings of an eagle, omens that priests interpret as messages from the gods. You wonder how many have gazed upon these signs before you, and whether their hopes and fears mirror your own. The temple walls are decorated with reliefs depicting sacred animals, bulls with curling horns, doves fluttering above palm trees, and serpents coiled in protective circles. Each image is carved with bold outlines and stylized simplicity, echoing the symbolic language you're learning to read as surely as any text. These figures are more than decoration. They are guardians of the ritual space, reminders of the divine order you serve. Suddenly, a voice breaks the quiet, low and melodic. It is the high priest, his tone measured and calm as he intones the ancient hymns. You join the chorus softly, your voice a thread in the fabric of sound that fills the temple chamber. The music, carried on waves of incense and flickering candlelight, connects you to ancestors long gone and to the gods who watch silently from their celestial thrones. Your eyes wander to the reed mats, where offerings of woven barley sheaves and ripe figs lie carefully arranged. These gifts symbolize the cycle of life and sustenance, tangible prayers for a good harvest and peace in the coming year. You recall that barley was not only a staple food, but also sacred to Inanna, often used to brew beer, a gift from the gods to humankind. Oddly enough, some scholars suggest that the invention of beer might have been a happy accident, like many great discoveries, born from forgotten grain left to ferment. Outside the temple, the village's bonfires crackle under the full moon's watchful gaze. Families gather beneath woven lanterns hung from date palms, their faces glowing warmly in the firelight. Children laugh and chase each other in the shadows, while elders sit quietly, recounting tales of past festivals and divine interventions. You remember that these communal celebrations bind the village in shared gratitude and hope, rituals that have endured through centuries of change. The temple's grand doors open slowly, and a procession begins. A young woman dressed in the priestess's veil steps forward, her robes shimmering with lapis lazuli threads, carrying a sacred vessel of water from the Euphrates. You watch as she moves gracefully, each step deliberate and filled with meaning, embodying the connection between earth and sky, mortal and divine. Her presence commands silence and reverence, and you feel the weight of tradition pressing gently but insistently on your shoulders. As the ritual deepens, you notice a small clay tablet resting near the altar, inscribed with a celestial map. The stars depicted on it mirror those you see twinkling faintly through the temple's open windows. Astronomers here have long studied the heavens, using their observations to guide planting and harvest, but also to understand the will of the gods. Interestingly, historians still debate whether these maps were purely practical, or if they also served as spiritual guides, linking the earthly temple to the vast cosmos. The incense smoke thickens, and you close your eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. The scents, the sounds, and the sacred texts all blend into a single experience that transcends time. You are not just an acolyte tonight, you are part of an ancient tradition, a living thread woven into the grand tapestry of Mesopotamian belief and practice. You feel a sudden chill as a breeze slips through the temple, carrying with it the distant sound of water lapping against reed boats on the nearby river. The contrast between the stillness inside and the gentle movement outside reminds you of the delicate balance your people strive to maintain, between order and chaos, night and day, mortal and divine. In this moment, beneath the priestess's veil and surrounded by the quiet power of the ritual, you understand the profound role these ceremonies play. They are not mere performance, but a bridge between worlds, a language of symbols and sensations that speak to something ancient and unchanging within the human spirit. As the final prayers are whispered and the last lamps flicker low, you feel a deep sense of peace. The temple holds its breath, suspended in this sacred pause before dawn, when the world will turn once more and the cycle of life and faith will begin again. The temple has settled into a calm, expectant hush as you move carefully among the rows of clay tablets resting on low shelves, their worn surfaces telling stories in sharp, wedge-shaped cuneiform. You pick one up, its rough edges cool in your hands, and begin to trace the familiar marks. A list of offerings made during past festivals, prayers to the goddess Inanna, and hymns praising the fertility of the land. It's fascinating how these tablets, some thousands of years old, carry not just words, but the heartbeat of an entire civilization. The scribes who once etched them were the memory keepers of your people, though historians still debate how widely literacy extended beyond temple walls. As you flip the tablet gently, you recall a curious tidbit from your studies. The ancient Mesopotamians sometimes wrote messages on clay balls sealed tight, known as envelopes, to safeguard contracts or secrets. It's almost like an ancient form of encryption, a reminder that even then, privacy and trust were prized and occasionally challenged. You smile to yourself, thinking how much we haven't changed in that regard. The air is thick with the scent of myrrh and crushed date palm leaves, weaving a fragrant tapestry that seems to hum with the presence of the divine. Your footsteps are muffled by woven reed mats lining the temple floor, their earthy tones blending perfectly with the muted terracotta of the walls. Around you, relief carvings depict scenes of daily life: farmers sowing barley, women grinding grain, fishermen casting nets, all under the watchful eyes of gods with serene, stylized faces. You feel the cool weight of a small reed basket in your hands, filled with dried figs and clusters of barley grains, offerings destined for the altar. The texture of the woven fibers is rough yet comforting, a tactile connection to generations who have come before you. These simple gifts embody profound gratitude, a tangible thanks for the harvest and the blessings it brings. Outside, the moon has risen higher, casting a silver glow over the palm groves and reflecting off the rippling surface of the nearby canal. The villagers' laughter drifts faintly through open windows, carried on the night breeze. The harvest festival continues, a living celebration of life's cyclical rhythm and the ancient bond between earth and sky. You think of the bonfires blazing in the fields, their flames flickering like earthly stars, and wonder how many times these fires have been lit before you. You pause by a carved wooden chest, its lid adorned with intricate geometric patterns. Inside lie small alabaster figurines, representing the goddess Inanna herself, her veiled form standing poised between fertility and war, love and power. These figures are more than art. They are vessels of devotion, embodying the paradoxes that make the goddess so compelling. Interestingly, some scholars still argue about Inanna's original role, whether she was primarily a goddess of love, a warrior queen, or a guardian of the harvest. A soft voice interrupts your thoughts. The temple priest, cloaked in linen dyed a deep ochre, beckons you closer. He hands you a delicate clay cup filled with a honeyed barley brew, a ritual drink meant to connect the earthly and divine. You sip slowly, savouring the sweet, earthy flavours, feeling the warmth spread through your chest. It's a moment of communion where time seems to stretch and the past and present mingle effortlessly. Your gaze falls upon the temple's ziggurat once more, its tiered form etched sharply against the night sky. The stars above seem to pulse with meaning, their constellations telling stories older than memory itself. Astronomers of your city have long mapped these celestial patterns, using them to guide planting cycles, festival dates, and spiritual rites. Yet historians still debate whether these observations were purely practical or deeply intertwined with mystical beliefs. Nearby, a group of acolytes prepare incense burners shaped like lions and bulls, sacred animals symbolizing strength and protection. The intricate reliefs on the burners mirror the temple's walls, their simplified yet powerful lines capturing the essence of Mesopotamian artistry. You catch yourself imagining how these motifs might have inspired the stories you've heard. Tales of divine beasts guarding gates between worlds, where gods and humans meet in shadowed corridors. A sudden gust of wind stirs the hanging palm fronds, and with it a scattering of papyrus scrolls tied with reed cords. You help gather them, feeling the papery texture, fragile yet resilient. These scrolls contain hymns and prayers, their cuneiform text a bridge between spoken words and eternal memory. The idea that something so delicate can outlast generations never ceases to amaze you. The festival's sounds begin to wane, replaced by a soft chanting rising from the temple's inner sanctum. You follow the melody, stepping through archways carved with scenes of the goddess Inanna's journey through the underworld, a story both somber and hopeful. rich with symbolism. The chanting builds, voices weaving together in a rhythm that feels as old as the stones beneath your feet. As the night deepens, you realize this moment, amid scents, sounds, and stories, is a rare and precious gift. You, an acolyte in training, are both witness and participant in a tradition that transcends time, connecting you to a world where gods and mortals dance beneath the moon's gentle light. The chants gently fade as you step into the courtyard, now bathed in the soft glow of oil lamps flickering against the cool night air. The stone walls seem to absorb the warmth, their surfaces etched with layers of history, each mark a testament to countless rituals performed under the watchful eyes of the gods. Lanterns hang from palm trees, casting dancing shadows on woven mats spread for feasting. You notice the villagers gathered here, their faces illuminated by firelight, the scent of roasted barley and spiced figs weaving through the air. Families sit together, sharing clay cups filled with thick, honeyed beer brewed from freshly harvested grains. You recognize the patterns on some of the vessels, simple yet elegant motifs of bulls and lions, echoing the temple's protective symbolism. Around you, children laugh quietly, their voices mingling with the soft strumming of a lyre played by an elder musician. The music is soothing, cyclical, like the river's endless flow, an ancient lullaby that anchors this celebration in time. You join a circle of dancers moving slowly, their steps deliberate and reverent. And they wear woven garlands of date palm leaves, intertwined with bright figs and sprigs of barley, symbols of fertility and abundance. Their motions tell stories older than the city itself, tales of God's blessings, seasons turning, and the unbroken chain of harvests, past and future. Interestingly, some scholars still debate whether these dances were purely ritualistic or also a form of storytelling and communal memory. Looking up, you see the full moon, a shining guardian hanging low over the fields. Its pale light casts a silvery sheen on the furrows where barley once grew tall, now carefully harvested and stored. The moon's glow mixes with the orange flicker of bonfires scattered across the landscape, their flames licking the cool night breeze. You feel the ancient rhythm pulsing through the earth beneath you, steady, sure, a heartbeat shared by generations. As the evening deepens, elders begin recounting old tales, their voices steady and warm. You listen as a storyteller weaves a narrative of the goddess Inanna's descent into the underworld, a myth of loss and renewal that resonates with the cycles you've witnessed tonight. The story is filled with rich symbolism, the veil of darkness, the promise of rebirth, the power of sacrifice. It reminds you that even in celebration there is an awareness of life's fragility. Nearby, a group prepares small clay figurines of animals and gods to be blessed and left as offerings for the coming season. You watch as fingers shape bulls, lions, and doves, each representing aspects of protection, strength, and peace. The figurines are simple, their forms stylized yet expressive, echoing the motifs carved into temple reliefs. These small acts of devotion bring the divine closer to everyday life. You take a moment to gaze toward the temple ziggurat, its silhouette stark against the night sky. The stepped structure rises like a mountain of terracotta, reaching toward the heavens. Historians still argue about its exact purpose: temple, astronomical observatory, or symbolic axis of the world. For you, it is both a beacon of faith and a monument to human aspiration. As the firelight flickers lower and the night grows quieter, you feel a deep sense of connection, not just to the gods, but to your community and the land itself. This festival, with its music, food, and stories is more than a celebration. It is a renewal of bonds, a promise to continue the cycle of life and gratitude. You sip from your cup once more, the honeyed barley brew lingering sweetly on your tongue. Around you, the villagers begin to settle, the laughter softening into whispered goodnights. The air cools, carrying the scent of crushed dates and burnt incense, wrapping you in a gentle embrace. In this peaceful moment, beneath the farmer's moon, you close your eyes and let the warmth of tradition lull you toward rest. Knowing that come dawn, the fields will await, the river will flow, and the cycle will begin anew. As the night deepens and the final embers of the bonfires glow softly beneath the vast sky, you feel yourself wrapped in the gentle hush of the fields. The crisp, cool air carries whispers of barley rustling, the faint murmur of the river flowing endlessly beyond the horizon. Lanterns sway quietly in the trees, their flickering light casting tender shadows on the woven baskets and clay cups that rest undisturbed now, as families dream beneath the moon's watchful gaze. The festival's vibrant sounds have faded into a peaceful stillness, leaving behind only the soft sigh of the earth settling under the stars. You sense the invisible threads tying you to generations past, farmers who celebrated these harvest moons with the same reverence and hope, storytellers who kept the myths alive with every breath, and the gods who watched over it all from their distant heavens. Let yourself drift gently in this timeless moment, the rhythm of the land echoing softly in your heart. There is calm here, a slow, steady promise that with each moon's rise, life will continue to flourish, to grow, and to renew. Now, breathe deep and feel the warm glow of gratitude and peace spread through you. The farmer's moon has set its blessing, and as you rest beneath its light, know that the cycle turns once more, for the fields, the people, and you. Sweet dreams.